Hello, everyone. This week on Dog Podcast Network, we have some great shows, including folklore and crime, and a lot more. I'm James Jacobson in Maui, Hawaii, and joining me in London.
I'm Claire Mansell. And yes, what an interesting and varied selection we have this week. We really do. And actually, there's a little bit of crime in the folklore because Sherlock Holmes briefly gets a mention. So, yes, Dog edition this week. No, not plural, dog edition this week.
It is only for one dog, which is your dog
Yeah.
loving family. You.
But it is dogs plural in folklore.
Right.
So we're delving into folklore, which, having delved into it now, I discovered is so far ranging and affects so many different areas of our life, and it's in modern films and modern books and in the way we behave towards our dogs as well. So we're discovering a bit about black dogs and the mythology surrounding them. They were the spooky dogs who would appear to foretell of something happening in the future. A few stories about that as well. And as I say, we're looking at how modern works of art borrow from mythology, everything from Disney to Harry Potter and a few other bits in between. So that's Dog Edition this week.
And it's really interesting because so many people have thought about, when a black dog is bad, and we've covered stories on DPN about black dogs are not as adoptable as lighter color dogs. But to understand the origins of that, it's a beautiful piece that you produced, and it's a great episode. You can find that at dogedition.com. And then on The Long Leash, I sit down and speak with an author. Her name is Jen Dana. Or Dana, I'm not sure. Two N's. So
Dana.
Dana.
I'm pretty sure it's Dana. I listened to it this morning.
There, I see. That's we tape these. We don't do these just we do these. There's a little bit of editing that goes in. So it was taped a couple weeks ago. But Jen is a delight, and she is part of a team. She had a co-author, and together they had a pseudonym. But her co-author died, so now it's just her. But it's basically about a whole series of really best-selling books that are doing really well and have captured a niche where dogs are effectively crime fighters, but not like Supermen type things. They are crime fighters, because they work for the FBI, or they are using their canine skills to solve crimes. They are central characters to the book, and they're delightful, and they've caught a lot of attention among dog lovers.
And I love the backstory of it as well, that it was sort of the internet that brought the two of them together, and they were writing stuff online. And it was Anne who criticized Jen, wasn't it? Because she had the knowledge and Jen wrote something and she said, no, that's wrong. And that was how they bonded, because they came from very different backgrounds, and they both had done non-fiction writing and had not done the fiction stuff before. And they just hit on this formula, which is amazing. And it is terribly sad that as you say, Anne died halfway through the writing of this 7th book, which has just been published, and that's called Still Waters. But Jen is going to continue on with the Sarah Driscoll series. And thank you, by the way, because you introduced me in the interview to a website I'd not heard of, which is, do you know the one I'm referring to?
I'm imagining Does the Dog Die?
Yeah.
One of my favorite little websites. If you have, you'll hear about it in the episode. But basically, if you are like movies, but you don't ever want to watch a movie where like a dog, check out Does the Dog Die?
There's one very high profile film I've never watched. Not like Marley and Me or anything, just to say it's not like a dog centric film, but there's one film I've never watched because I found out that the dog does die in it, and I'm like, I'm no interest in watching it now. So it's a useful website to know about.
So check out that interview. You can find that on The Long Leash is the name of the show, and you can find that on the website longleashshow.com. And we have something on cancer.
Yes, Dog Cancer Answers this week. Molly is talking with Dr. Brooke Britton about whether anal cancer can spread to the stomach. So this obviously is another question that is coming from somebody with first-hand experience of this and wanted to understand more about the diagnosis and how cancer spreads. So that can be found at dogcanceranswers.com.
Those are what we got this week from Dog Podcast Network. What are you up to, Claire?
Oh, well,
you didn't tell us about your trip to Paris.
Yeah,
you teased it, but you are back.
Do you know the interesting thing as well? I went cycling all around Paris. I saw an awful lot of Paris. And the interesting thing is I did a lot of observing of types of dogs that I saw around Paris. Now, this is not a very scientific thing because we all have certain biases. And I think you would appreciate that you probably see more Maltese out in the world because you're switched on to seeing them. Is that fair enough to say? I used to have a beagle and I saw lots of beagles everywhere. I think the typical Parisian dog, and I think our perception of it is that they have small dogs, and because they have small accommodation generally in the centre of Paris, and there were a lot of small dogs. But I saw amongst a lot of small dogs a lot of beagles. So that was always a joy to see. I love beagles.
They're beautiful. And did you see them in restaurants or just walking the streets?
That's a good question. No, but then there probably wasn't a lot of room in restaurants because they're all the football supporters. They would have got trampled underfoot.
But did you enjoy dining with dogs in Paris?
I enjoyed the dining very, very much. I enjoyed being in a city where you can just walk down the street and there are 4 or 5 good places to eat, and you can walk into any of them and not be disappointed. And the atmosphere in them is wonderful. And the first night we were there, and both me and my friend who were there noticed it. There was a lady behind us sitting on her own at a table having her meal, but she was there to enjoy the atmosphere and enjoy the local people around. And it was wonderful.
It is nice to get out there, and I am always touched. My favorite French dog experience is not in Paris, but it was in Monte Carlo, and I was there by myself many years ago, and there was this very wealthy woman sitting at a table, and this was, I think it was called Café de Paris, which is at a hotel in Monte Carlo, and eating fancy food, and it was her and her dog, and she was probably many years older than I was, like 30 or 40 years older than me, but she had a little poodle, and she had pâté, and she would have a bite for herself, and then she would give, and of course, silver forks, and give a bite to the dog, and the dog would very, genteelly eat its pate, and then she would eat from the same fork. And I just thought it was just so touching, and I think I said a few kind words to her, like how much I liked it, and she invited me to come and sit on her table, and we had a wonderful meal brought together by this little dog, and the fact that they were sharing pate from the same fork.
That's almost, but not quite, the episode that we were just talking about that we want to make, which is an episode about people who found their significant other through their dog. So if anybody is watching or listening to this and you met your other half through your dog, whether it was out dog walking or at the vets or whatever it is, please get in contact with us because we'd love to hear your story.
Yeah. And the easiest way to get in contact with us is if you go to dogpodcastnetwork.com, go to any of those episode pages, shows.dogpod, any episode page. In the bottom right, there's a little place where you can either leave us a voice message or just send us a message, and we read them all. And some of them end up making it into shows, including the show that we were talking about, which is a Valentine's Day show that we're working on, because we work months in advance, related to how a dog might have brought you together with your significant other. So if you know someone or you are that person, let us know, and you can make it into Dog Edition.
Fantastic. Right, well, Jim, I'm about to go and do something very British.
What is that?
I'm going to the pub to have a pint before Christmas with my friends.
Is Maple coming?
We were debating that. I think because it's a meetup of my running group, and technically she's part of the running group. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I think she should come. I love going to pubs in Britain where the big dogs are under the table so perfectly. Like this is where they belong. We don't do
Indeed.
that in America. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back again next Thursday. You can listen to all these episodes at shows.dogpodcastnetwork.com and subscribe in your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. Take care, everyone.